The architecture of a heavy industrial component, like a monolithic engine block, is defined by a complex labyrinth of internal cylinders and routing channels, walls, and attempting deformation with a forging hammer reveals a mechanical limit. Brittle metals like cast iron shatter rather than flatten. Solid-state manufacturing hits a hard constraint when extreme mass, internal geometric complexity, and material brittleness intersect. The engineering solution is to bypass the solid state entirely. Elevating a metal past its melting point triggers a phase change, resetting its mechanical limitations. At extreme temperatures, rigid steel and brittle iron become a highly flowable fluid. Metal casting is the precise thermal and geometric control of this liquid metal to form a predefined solid state. This liquid is contained within the sand mold, a temporary, highly engineered fluid dynamics and thermodynamics system. Bypassing these physical limits of solid-state machining requires engineers to completely master the chaotic variables of 1500-degree liquid thermodynamics. Building this system starts in a conceptual space with the pattern. The pattern is a physical replica of the final object, built with strict mathematical allowances to account for metal shrinkage during cooling and to leave extra material for final machining. We enclose the pattern in a containment box called the flask. The top half is the cope, the bottom half is the drag, and the horizontal seam dividing them is the parting line. The void is then packed with sand. Directly against the pattern, we use fine facing sand to capture the intricate details of the surface. The rest of the flask is filled with coarser backing sand for structural integrity. The cope is lifted and the physical pattern is extracted. When the cope is lowered back down, it leaves a precise, enclosed negative space, the mold cavity. This split flask architecture exists for one engineering reason. It allows the extraction of the solid pattern without destroying the fragile sand geometry. If the final cast object requires an internal void, like the cylinder bore in an engine block, we face a new physical challenge. We introduce a core. This is a pre-baked block of sand placed inside the cavity to physically block liquid metal from filling that specific area. However, the core cannot hover in midair. Left unsupported, gravity pulls it to the floor of the empty cavity. To anchor it, we carve specific recesses into the mold walls called core prints, which hold the ends of the core in place. For longer geometries, we prop up the center of the core using thin metal stands called chaplets. Because these chaplets set directly in the path of the molten fluid, they are made of the exact same alloy as the casting metal. Creating internal geometry requires suspending physical barriers in the path of 1500-degree fluid. By matching the materials, the chaplets melt and fuse, vanishing into the final monolithic structure. With the internal architecture secured, the mold is entirely sealed. We now must deliver high-velocity liquid metal into this space without destroying the sand walls. This requires a hydraulic network. It begins with the pouring basin, a funnel designed to catch the initial flow and control turbulence. From the basin, the fluid drops down a tapered vertical shaft called the sprue. This geometry drives fluid velocity while preventing air aspiration. At the bottom of the sprue, the liquid turns 90 degrees into a horizontal channel known as the runner. The runner leads to the gate, the aperture where the fluid finally breaches the mold cavity. This gating system is a sacrificial hydraulic network designed to tame the velocity and kinetic energy of the liquid metal before it touches the final shape. The pour begins. Liquid metal navigates the gating system, floods the main cavity, and envelopes the core. Filling the void is only half the battle. As the metal undergoes its phase transition back to solid, it experiences volumetric contraction. If the metal freezes passively, it shrinks away from the mold walls, leaving massive internal voids and a ruined part. To counteract this, we add a riser, an additional vertical shaft above the cavity that acts as an external thermal reservoir. The riser is engineered with a lower surface area to volume ratio than the casting, ensuring it remains liquid the longest. As the main component cools, gravity pulls liquid metal from the riser into the void to compensate for shrinkage. Successful casting requires the mold to actively feed the liquid metal throughout the phase transition, preventing catastrophic structural voids. Once the phase change is complete and the metal is solid, the process reaches a hard constraint. The engineered sand mold is single-use. You do not carefully open the mold, you destroy it. On the factory floor, the resulting components possess a heavy scale that no other method can produce in a single step. Because the liquid metal cooled in direct contact with abrasive sand, the final surface finish is inherently poor. Because cooling rates vary across the complex geometry, the mechanical properties of the casting are not perfectly uniform. Microscopic internal defects are almost guaranteed. The geometric freedom and massive scale achievable through casting comes at a direct cost to surface precision and metallurgical uniformity. To create a functional engineering component, the solidified sprue, runner, and riser, the sacrificial network, must be sawed off the main casting and sent back to the furnace. Then, the raw casting is loaded into a subtractive machine tool. Here, immense mechanical force is applied to shave exact fractions of a millimeter off rough surfaces, establishing tight tolerances required for final engineering applications. Modern manufacturing relies on a synthesis of these methods. We use the thermodynamics of casting to achieve macro-scale architecture, and the force of machining to reach micro-precision.